Yeah, yeah. Ball so hard, you better believe me, it's scary. It's basketball at the bar with Calvin and Barry. So put a tip in the jar, cause these dudes can really fill it up. Whether it's buckets you need or just a beer in a cup. We're here for fresh conversations and some delicious libations. Subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications. My boys got you covered like you being guarded by Peyton. From the glove to the claw and everyone else in between. Calvin and Barry got everything that you need. So sit back, relax, because we're starting the show. It's basketball at the bar. Grab your drinks and let's go. Yeah. Grab a drink and let's go. Subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification. Calvin and Barry. Subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification. Let's get it.
What up, ballers? Welcome to Basketball at the Bar. Join us live every weekday for the best NBA podcast here on YouTube, where the takes are hot and the drinks are cold. There's no dress code, and you can take us wherever you go. So pull up a stool, drop a like, and don't forget to subscribe. This is Basketball at the Bar. Grab your drinks, and let's go, Calvin.
Let's go.
Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome back. We had a nice 3-day weekend here at Basketball at the Bar. It was a little bit of a rough weekend, but it's okay. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. On today's show, we have a lot of action for you guys. We have injury updates. We have a weekend recap. There was only 2 games on Sunday, but we had a game on Friday. And we talk about the Minnesota Timberwolves going fishing. And then we break down both games today. Before we end the show, as always, with Q&A, I want to give a quick shout out to Flame Flurry 11. What's up, dude? Yeah, no live on Friday. Unfortunately, we had a little COVID outbreak here at the bar. So Calvin and I have been under the weather, and it's okay. We're still under the weather a little bit, but we're here. We're going to try and do the best show we can today, and hope you guys enjoy.
Yeah, it's good to be back. Good to be talking about basketball and not worrying about illness.
Yeah. Yeah, it's unfortunate timing.
But there's a lot of illness going around the league, too, which we'll talk about.
Yeah, it's unfortunate timing as I had a wedding to attend that I was actually supposed to be in this weekend, end up missing that. Calvin is supposed to be at a wedding this week.
I'm supposed to be on a plane in 8 hours, which is not going to happen.
Which he is missing. Yeah, both COVID positive and positive for this podcast. So here we go, here Calvin. Let's do it.
Yeah. Well, first of all, while we were gone, of course, on Friday, the Memphis Grizzlies eliminated the Minnesota Timberwolves. So congratulations to Memphis moving on. They've already played game 1 on Sunday against the Warriors, which we'll get to. For Minnesota, it was a pretty good season, I'd have to say, all things considered. Not many people expected them to be in the position that they were in. Anthony Edwards had another 30-point performance in Game 6. So the future is bright in Minnesota. But let's get you guys caught up on the injury report, because there is a lot to talk about, particularly in the Miami-Philadelphia series. But we'll start with Marcus Smart. I'm questionable about this injury because he left the game with what appeared to be a right shoulder injury. He immediately exited the game, went straight to the locker room. He's listed as questionable for game 2, but it's with a quad injury. So I'm not sure what happened there. I guess the shoulder ended up being okay, but he ended up tweaking his quad instead.
It's the Donovan Mitchell thing all over again, right?
Yeah. So on to this Miami-Philadelphia series. Everybody knows about Joel Embiid, mild concussion, orbital fracture, from the elbow to his face by Pascal Siakam in Game 6 when they were up, I believe it was 29 points with 4 minutes to go in the game. Still don't know why he was in that game at that moment, but that's a different topic for another day. He did not travel with the team to Miami. He will not play in Games 1 and 2. They are confident that he will be ready to go when the series returns to Philadelphia for Game 3. This is definitely something that he can play with. He's played with this exact injury in the past. He will probably wear a mask, and we'll see how it affects him moving forward. It's more of a pain management thing than anything else. Now on to Miami. They have a ton of players listed as out or questionable for Game 1 today. Tyler Herro, questionable with an illness. Caleb Martin, questionable with an ankle. Markieff Morris, questionable with a non-COVID illness. Don't ask me what the difference between his and Tyler Herro's illnesses are. I do not know. PJ Tucker, questionable with a calf injury. Max Strus questionable with a hamstring. Kyle Lowry out for Game 1 with his hamstring injury continuing to bother him. And Jimmy Butler is questionable with a knee injury that caused him to miss Game 5 of the Hawks series. So if you got money on this Game 1, pay close attention to the injury report, the game time decisions. I assume a bunch of these guys are going to end up playing. PJ Tucker, we saw him play despite the injury in Game 5 against Atlanta. These illnesses, I think, are the big question marks, and will Jimmy Butler decide to give it a go, or do they choose to give him more rest knowing that Joel Embiid is not going to play either? And then finally, we have Steven Adams is out with COVID for the Memphis Grizzlies. He missed Game 1, and Andre Iguodala is still dealing with the neck injury that he suffered in their first-round series. He will be reevaluated in a couple of days. Wow, Barry, I feel for Adrian Wojnarowski and all these guys because that was a lot to get through.
Yeah, that is a lot. Bottom line, the Sixers need James Harden to be the James Harden of old and step up while Embiid is out. And as you mentioned, there are injuries all over the league right now, hamstrings, knees, calves, and toes, right?
Yes.
However the rhyme goes. And then also some people out due to illnesses, which is unfortunate. First off, Calvin, I want to start the show. Let's just talk a little bit since, we weren't here on Friday. There was still a game Friday night. We watched it. It was a rough game for me to watch. I was dealing with some dizziness and some blurriness, but I still enjoyed watching the game. And, let's talk a little bit about it. So first off here, the Grizzlies defeat the Timberwolves 114-106. Anthony Edwards, 30 more points in this game after the defensive breakdown in the game before. The dude has been incredible. I know this is only his second year in the league, but he's really shown people what he can do. A lot of flashes of greatness. Unfortunately, there are times, that every young player has where they make mistakes on the defensive end of the floor. But another amazing game for him. Karl Anthony Towns, only 18 points in this game, 10 rebounds, 4 assists, a steal, a block. Patrick Beverley fouled out in this game in 38 minutes. And then Jaden McDaniels, 24 huge points off the bench. But Memphis was just too much for Minnesota. I am so happy I'm not going to have to say Minnesota and Memphis over and over and over again at this point. Amazing game for Jaren Jackson Jr., another tongue twister there. 18 points, 14 rebounds, assist, a steal, 2 blocks. Amazing game for him. Dylan Brooks fouls out in this game with 23 points in 32 minutes. Desmond Bane, 23 points. And John Morant, only 17 points, 11 assists, 8 rebounds in this game, 5 turnovers. Another game, a good game to watch, a great season by the Minnesota Timberwolves. I think they've gotten a lot further than many people would have imagined. But they were facing a really good Memphis team without Steven Adams now he's out due to COVID, but he was benched due to the matchups. I like this Memphis team a lot. I know you and I had both picked them to win this series in 6 games, which...
Nailed it.
Exactly what's happening here. But what were your thoughts on this game?
Well, this was a really, really entertaining series, just as we all thought it would be going into it. And it comes down to, you heard Anthony Edwards talk about it in his post-game press conference after they were eliminated. It came down to experience. Even though Memphis is not an experienced playoff team, they do have more experience than the Timberwolves do, and it was on display in this series. You have to applaud Anthony Edwards for his effort, especially like you mentioned, coming off of that really disappointing defensive play at the end of Game 5 where he let John Morant get right to the bucket for a game-winning layup. He responds with 30 points in this game. He had 20 at halftime. I thought he was locked in defensively. Minnesota's going to be fine. They've got an incredible amount of young talent on this team. Jaden McDaniels, as you mentioned, a career high, not just playoff career high, but a career high 24 points for him. He could not miss. But this series for me came down to crunch time execution and second chance opportunities. Brandon Clark, again, was huge for the Grizzlies. He dominated in this series on the glass. At times, he was the sole reason that Memphis either got back into the game or ended up getting a lead late in the game. And that's what it really ultimately came down to for me. Jaren Jackson Jr. was not as much of a factor as I expected him to be. Matchups, foul trouble, kind of, and poor shooting, ended up costing him a lot of his stats, if you will, in this series. And John Morant, even though he didn't shoot well, he came up big for them time after time, not just scoring either. Defensively, rebounding, his decision-making, he was at double-digit rebounds or assists for almost every game in this series. And they were the better team. They eventually move on. I think it's exactly kind of what we expected, a high-scoring, highly entertaining series between a couple of young and inexperienced teams, and the better team won out.
Now, the thing that I was really looking forward to going into this game was another protester. I'm not going to lie. We talk about how the Timberwolves were undefeated in the playoffs and the play-in when there was a protester on the court. This was a game in Minnesota. If I'm Minnesota, I'm thinking maybe I'm going to let a protester on the court here and maybe we can pull out another win, maybe force a Game 7. We didn't see that happen. They lose. Obviously, I'm just joking here. I think it has nothing to do with whether they win or lose, but it's a good little gig we got going on here. But it's official. The Timberwolves are going fishing. So I want to take a look here at the roster, and let's talk about how they can improve moving into next season. So first off, Karl-Anthony Towns, he's locked up long term. He's got 2 more years left. $33 million next season, $36 million the year after that. D'Angelo Russell is on the last year of a big contract. He signed with the Golden State Warriors in a sign and trade from Brooklyn. $31 million next season. Taurean Prince is a $15 million expiring deal at the end of this season. You have Malik Beasley locked up for 2 more years. One of those years is a team option. Patrick Beverley has 1 more year at $13 million. He was a driving force for them this year in the playoffs and during the regular season. Then we have Anthony Edwards. Obviously, this is only his 2nd year, number 1 overall pick, so he's got 2 more years of team option. Then he becomes a restricted free agent. There's no way in hell the Minnesota Timberwolves let him walk.
Yeah.
After that, we have Jared Vanderbilt, 2 more years, 4.6 next year, 4.9 the year after that. Josh Okogie is expiring. Jake Layman is expiring. And then you have guys like Jaden McDaniels, Jalen Noel, Naz Reid, guys that are just kind of making $2 million or so that are locked up, for a year or 2. They do have some salary cap flexibility with the expiring of Taurean Prince. They have some options on guys they can move on this roster. A lot of young talent on this team. The average age on this team is probably 24 years old or so. Towns is only 26. Russell's only 26. Anthony Edwards is 20. So, Calvin, looking at this roster, what moves should they make to go into next year, with hopes of advancing to the 2nd round?
Well, first of all, I think Minnesota is in a really great spot. I mean, you just highlighted what their contract situation is, the fact that they're young, their core group of players are locked up for the foreseeable future, and they've got a lot of really good either expiring or cheap deals. So there's opportunity for them to spend a little bit of money in free agency. I think what they need to do is they need to get a better, more consistent bench core going. I don't expect Jaden McDaniels to stay on this bench for very long. I think he'll be a starter before the end of next year for sure. So that kind of takes his 6th man ability away from this team. I think they should go out and look for some more scoring off the bench. And I really think they should look to add some more veteran leadership on this team. I mean, Patrick Beverley is the guy for them right now. And I questioned his leadership in certain moments of this playoff run for them. Not saying that he isn't a good person to have on this team. I think he instilled a lot of confidence in these young guys. And everybody knows, he came true on his promise that they would make the playoffs, right? Mm-hmm. So there's definitely some positives to take away from his contributions to the team this year. I think they need more, though. This team is so young, and they're so inconsistent on the big stage that they could really use another one of those veteran, championship experience type guys in the locker room to help get them through those tough times. So that's really where I would start. They're in a great position. I don't think they need to do too much with this roster, given the fact that these guys should come back even better next year. I'm talking about McDaniels, Edwards, even Towns now should have a lot of motivation to come back better. And that's a scary thought because he's already one of the best big men in the league, especially during the regular season. The guy puts up ridiculous numbers all the time. So I think they've got a very good foundation to build off of. I think they like their coach as well. They're going to run it back with him for sure, at least for another season. So they should look for more veteran leadership out there in free agency or by a trade and try to strengthen the scoring off the bench.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. A lot of young talent on this team, and you can't really rush the young guys, right, in their development. All you can do is help put the pieces around them, like veterans like Patrick Beverley and some of these other guys that have already been there, and help show them the path on how to get better, help them work on, their workout routines, their practice routines, make sure that every practice they get in is powerful and they move forward, they step forward every time. They have another pick in the draft this year, number 19. I know that's not super bright because, it's not a top 10 or a top 5 pick or anything like that. They don't have a chance at the lottery, but they made the playoffs this year.
And that's okay, though. I think picking in the late teens is actually beneficial for this team,
yes,
right? Because they've got their big three. D'Angelo Russell is one guy that we didn't really talk about
That's
yet.
the guy I want to talk about next.
He was a big no-show in this playoffs.
Yep.
For Minnesota. He's got to be better if they want to continue to improve as a team and advance further in the postseason.
He is my biggest question mark for them this offseason. As I mentioned, he's going into the last year of his deal. They did not work out a contract extension yet. $31.3 million. I know he made an all-star team while he was with the Brooklyn Nets. Hasn't done it since then. That's a lot of money to pay a guy that's, I think he had one good game here in the playoffs that I remember saying, wow, that was a good game by D'Angelo Russell. What do we expect from him in the next game? I know him and Towns are friends. There was, rumors years ago about Towns, Russell, and Booker wanting to play together on the same team. But for me, D'Angelo Russell is the question mark. Is he bringing $31 million worth of value to this team next season? And is he going to re-sign? Is he going to re-sign at a reasonable amount? Or are we better off moving this guy for maybe veterans or maybe another young player, maybe a higher pick in the draft? He is the biggest question mark on this team for me.
Definitely. And with the emergence of Edwards, everybody kind of thought he was going to be a really good player. I don't think people expected him to be this good this fast. So now you've got to be thinking, even though it's a couple years down the line, that's a supermax extension coming for sure. So do you decide to move D'Angelo Russell now so that you're planning ahead financially for when you have to give Anthony Edwards that huge deal?
Yeah, and depending on how Jaden McDaniels develops as well, he's only 21 years old. He's got, 2 more years on this deal. You could potentially be paying him and Anthony Edwards at the same time, which kind of clouds it even more. We talked about Josh Okogie in the past and how I really, like what he brought to the team. He's only 23 years old. He's an expiring deal. I'm not sure if he's going to remain with this squad. So there are some question marks, but they have a lot of young talent to build around. They're definitely on the up and up. But it's going to be an interesting offseason for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Definitely some stuff to build off of. All right. Now we got that out of the way here.
They're just ice fishing.
Yeah. All right, moving on here. Let's talk about the weekend recap. Really, this is the Sunday recap because we had 2 games. We officially got to see round 2 kick off. First off, the Milwaukee Bucks traveled to Boston to take on the Celtics. The Bucks win this game 101-89. Another good game by Giannis Antetokounmpo, 24 points, 13 rebounds, 12 assists, 2 blocks. I know he had 5 turnovers in this game, but a great performance for him. 25 points for Drew Holiday, 9 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals. They end up winning this game, but for me, it was more about what Boston didn't do in this game. You know, we have expected big things out of Jason Tatum, only 21 points out of him in this game, 12 points for Horford, 10 points for Marcus Smart, and only 12 points for Jaylen Brown, and not much bench production for the Boston Celtics. Calvin, what are your thoughts on this first game of the second round?
Well, Boston got a little bit of a taste of their own medicine in this game one. The biggest storyline behind that Brooklyn and Boston series was how difficult Boston made it for Brooklyn to score. And you saw the exact same thing here in this game one reversed from Milwaukee. Milwaukee is a huge team with a lot of length on the front court, some really solid defensive guards in Wesley Matthews and Drew Holiday, and they present problems for this Boston team that Brooklyn just didn't have at their disposal. So you saw Jason Tatum struggle to score. Jaylen Brown even more so. The team, Boston, really struggled shooting the basketball. And, a lot of people thought, well, this Chris Middleton injury is going to be a huge problem for Milwaukee because where is their offense going to come from? But if they can keep these games, to the low hundreds, even mid-90s, a lot of people might think that favors Boston. I'm not so sure it favors either team more than the other. The one thing about this Milwaukee team, even though they don't have Chris Middleton, they insert a guy like Bobby Portis into the lineup.
Huge.
That gives you such a huge front court, and it definitely works for them offensively because now you're being able to draw Robert Williams and Al Horford away from the basket. It negates that rim protecting ability. And for Jason Tatum, he was able to do such a great job on Kevin Durant in the first round. He's now going to have to deal with that same problem going up against this huge front line for Milwaukee in round two. And for the Bucks, as long as they can knock down outside shots, that gives them a huge, huge advantage in this series.
Yeah, Bobby Portis has been absolutely huge in the playoffs for this Milwaukee Bucks team. I didn't mention it here, but 15 points, 11 rebounds, the hustle by this guy. He's been shooting incredible. I also got to give a shout out to Grayson Allen, too. We had questions about who was going to step up from them in the guard position. Grayson Allen has been incredible for them here in this year's playoffs. So when you're a championship caliber team, you need the others to step up, right? Especially when a guy like Chris Middleton is down, and that's exactly what they've done.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't want Drew Holiday's performance, not just in this game, but all season long, to go not unnoticed, but without being talked about enough. He's just so important to what this team does, and he is firing on all cylinders right now. If his offensive game is going and he's knocking down shots, this team is... They're the defending champs. They're one of the toughest teams to beat in all the league.
Yeah, they're a good team. They're an incredible team. I know you had them going to the finals. I did not. I have them losing to Miami. We'll see what happens there. But definitely a great performance by them. And hey, as NBA fans, another awesome game and series to watch. Yeah. I know this game wasn't as close as a lot of Boston fans would have wanted it to be, but it's only game one. People make adjustments.
They'll come back and
teams make adjustments.
Yep.
And we'll see what happens. Have you heard anything more about Chris Middleton?
He is still listed that he's not going to return for this series.
Okay.
They said that before the series started, and it doesn't seem like there's any improvements for him. So it's something to keep an eye on for sure. But and for Boston, this Marcus Smart injury, it's a big deal. If he misses games, he's really, just like Drew Holiday is incredibly important to what the Bucks do. Marcus Smart is very, very important to what Boston does on both sides of the ball. So that's a key injury to watch going forward.
Yeah, he is definitely, the vocal leader of that team, kind of like what Patrick Beverley has brought to the Timberwolves. Although he's not the best player on the team, he is the vocal
he's the heart
leader
and soul.
The heart and soul of the team.
And he's been shooting really well lately, especially from three. So they are losing a lot, not just, the heart and the soul and the voice and all that stuff. They're losing a lot of actual play on the court as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's official. The reigning champs have officially stolen home court advantage. Watch out, Boston.
It's just one game. So, we could be having the same conversation about how's Milwaukee going to recover when they go back home in game 2. But you never know. We'll have to wait and see.
They say it's not a series until you win on the road.
Yeah,
and
it's a series.
They won on the road. Speaking of which, both of these games were won on the road. The second game on Sunday, we had the Golden State Warriors heading to Memphis to take on the Grizzlies. They sneak out a victory, 117-116. Draymond Green gets ejected in this game. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. But, another good performance by Steph Curry, 24 points for him. Only 15 for Klay Thompson, 17 for Andrew Wiggins, 31 huge points off the bench for Jordan Poole. I'm going to say that again. Jordan Poole is coming off the bench again, and he is absolutely killing it. 31 points for him, 5 of 10 from three-point range, and 12 of 20 from the field. Jaren Jackson Jr. has a huge performance, 33 points, 10 rebounds. Ja Morant, a 34-point, almost triple-double, 9 rebounds, 10 assists, 3 steals in that game. Thoughts on the game, Cal?
This was a great game to watch, first of all. I'm really excited to watch the rest of this series. I think most of the games are going to be just very similar to game 1. Highly contested, a lot of points, very close games. What this series comes down to for me is both of these teams are actually pretty similar, especially right now because Memphis is committing to playing small. So both these teams are running out there with pretty small lineups. In fact, due to the Draymond Green ejection, Golden State finished this game with Poole, Curry, Thompson, Wiggins, and Gary Payton II. That is one hell of a small lineup out there, especially when you've got Jaren Jackson Jr. and Brandon Clark playing for the Grizzlies. But what this series is going to come down to, obviously, who can make big-time plays, big-time shots. We know the Warriors are filled with those guys. The question is, do the Grizzlies have enough, big-time playmakers in those situations to get wins in these one-possession games? Second chance points, man. It just the Grizzlies, that's been their MO all year long, right? They're the number 1 rebounding team in the league all season. That's with Steven Adams, though. Now they're playing smaller. We see it time and time again with both these teams, both in the first round and in this game. Guys like Gary Payton II being able to fly in on free throws, tip balls up, keep possessions alive. Both these teams are so good at that for playing these small lineups. They have to be good at it because they roll with these smaller lineups. And then, just who's going to make enough big plays down the stretch. Jaren Jackson Jr. is a problem officially for Golden State in this series. I expect Draymond Green to be guarding him a good portion of the time, and he hopefully won't be missing too many more games due to ejections or things like that. So this is going to be a great series to watch. And individual matchups, I think, are going to be really, really key. You saw Klay Thompson guarding Brandon Clark down the stretch for a lot of that game 1. So adjustments, personal, individual matchups, it's going to be really, really key to watch.
Yeah, we saw in the first round, they purposely benched Steven Adams due to matchups, and that was with another big in Karl Anthony Towns. Now they don't really have a choice since he's out due to COVID. He could potentially return in this series, and I think he will. Do you think there's a matchup that maybe Memphis could exploit with Steven Adams' size against Golden State, or does size not work against this death lineup?
Just like in round 1, I don't expect Steven Adams to get very many minutes in this series because Golden State they're so committed to that small lineup. They don't care who the other team throws out there, and they're really, really good at using that to their advantage. So I think, given the previous round history, what Memphis has already adjusted to with playing smaller without Adams, playing more Brandon Clark, I think that's what you're going to see going forward in this series too. Brandon Clark's been too good for them, first of all, to keep him on the bench. Yeah,
these close games like this, you really see the experience of the Golden State Warriors, trumping a team like the Grizzlies, who are too young, right? We've been saying all season they're so young, they don't know better, right? They don't know that they're supposed to lose this game, and that's really benefited them a lot this season. But as you get into the playoffs and you're playing teams like the Golden State Warriors that have been to the finals, 5 times, have, 3
5
rings
times in a row.
with this group. They definitely start to, what do they say? The cream rises to the top.
Yeah.
And that's no knock on Memphis at all. They've had an incredible season, but we're talking about the Golden State Warriors with future Hall of Famers all over this roster.
Right.
And one of them in Andre Iguodala, who hasn't even been available for them.
And decision making too is going to be very, very. It's going to be huge in this series because I think a lot of the games are going to be close, and people throw that championship DNA term around. I think it might be overused in a lot of cases, but that being said, Golden State knows how to execute in these big moments.
Yep.
Even a guy like Jordan Poole, who doesn't have the championship experience, he's got that Warriors. Style of play, and it's ingrained into your head from the moment you walk into that room.
And he's been practicing against these guys.
He has.
Yeah.
Everybody will point to the fact that he had 31 huge points off the bench, but he is an excellent passer. I mean, he really, really finds guys. It's part of that system. They know how to move without the ball, and they're all looking for each other. So the fact that that's one of the things that makes the Warriors so hard to stop, because you think, okay, as long as we just control Steph or Clay or whoever's got the ball and stop them from taking a 3, we'll be good. But they'll make 2 or 3 extra passes just so a wide open guy can take the right shot. It doesn't always have to be one of the big stars on this team. Jordan Poole is just the exact same as that, and he's shown that he can make that shot as well.
Yep.
So that's what makes defending them so tough. And for Memphis, their late game operation seems to be pretty black and white. Get out of the way and let John Morant go full speed and get to the rim. It's worked for them a lot this season, but against the Warriors, as we saw, they're smart. They know what's coming. So how is Memphis going to adjust in those situations?
Yep. All right, let's talk about this Draymond Green ejection. I was surprised to learn that this is his first ever postseason ejection, which is crazy to me, thinking about how many people he's kicked in the nuts, the suspension against Cleveland in the playoffs.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts on that? Because he definitely made contact with the face. People are talking about how it's his reputation, not the actual act. I saw an interview with him this morning saying, he's not going to stop playing like he plays because he's won 3 championships. He's got 4, all-star appearances, a Defensive Player of the Year award. That's what's gotten him this far, and I totally agree with him. But on this call, was it the right call or no?
I don't think it was. I would have been okay with a flagrant 1 foul. To throw somebody out of the game, midway into the second quarter for that play, it didn't look great. I give him that. And, certainly if you're Brandon Clark, then you're going to feel some type of way about it. That being said, this was not a flagrant 2 foul. It was a hard foul, yes. And was there a wind-up, all that stuff? That's where it really gets hard to determine, because by the letter of the law, just like you heard when the ref gave his explanation of it, it makes sense. But from a common sense standpoint or just a basketball standpoint, if you're watching this in live time, I don't see how your first reaction could be, oh, that's a flagrant 2, he's out of the game.
Yeah, I was very surprised that he was ejected from this game. I think that foul did not warrant an ejection. However, at the same time, his reputation, right? And not saying that that's what they used in making that determination, but reputation, especially in today's society, is everything. And when you've developed a reputation of being a guy that hits people, that does whatever it takes to win, even if it's not allowed in the rule book, that follows you. And, I feel for Draymond because I think he only played 17 minutes in this game, and that happens, unfortunately. But you got to look at yourself in the mirror and be like, what kind of reputation have I created for myself to allow things like this to spiral like this? Because reputation is important. And, yes, you are a winner and you play hard and you defend your teammates and all this stuff. But at the same time, This is a game. This is a sport. You're playing with other professionals. You don't want to hurt somebody else. Imagine if you end up, hitting this guy in the face like what happened to Embiid and breaking his orbital bone, and he misses the rest of the series. You're out for one game and the other dude's out for like 4 games, depending on how long it takes. I understand both sides. I don't think he deserved to get ejected for this foul, but I get it. I understand.
Yeah. I mean, I did not see any intent to hurt Brandon Clark on that play.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't either.
He got hit in the face, and to your point, he could have broken a bone in his face and missed time, but injuries happen. That's part of the game.
How many people has he kicked in the nuts? You remember when that streak was going? That was like one playoff run. He kicked like 3 people in the nuts.
All right, that might be true, but I'm not talking about any of those plays.
We say the same thing
in a long time.
We say the same thing about Grayson Allen though when he fouls somebody, right?
That's true.
It's the reputation.
Chris Paul kicked who was it? Jose Alvarado in the midsection.
Yep.
On a jump shot.
Yep.
Why didn't he get suspended or ejected from the game? Reputation?
Yeah.
See, that's a problem.
It helps you and it hurts you.
It helps you and it hurts you. But from a referee standpoint, you have to find a way to take that stuff out of your head. I just don't. If you're going to officiate a game, any game, especially a playoff game, you have to look at it with the most neutral. That's your job, to officiate the game neutrally. But so now you've got all these people saying the NBA is rigged because Draymond Green was ejected when he shouldn't have been.
They've been saying that for a long time.
I understand that, but that's part of my problem here. If you're an official, you have to referee the game completely neutral.
You're judge, jury, and executioner when you're the referee of a playoff game, right?
Yeah.
If you're a judge and somebody, comes to your courtroom and they have a past history of things, you take that into account, right?
Yes. He's not on trial, though. That's the difference.
I'm just saying, I get it from both perspectives. I'm not choosing either side.
I see what you're saying. I understand. And trust me, Draymond has done himself a lot of harm in the past, personally, by the things that he's said, his actions on the court, all that stuff. And do I feel for officials who get berated by fans and players nonstop throughout the course of a game? Yes, of course I do. However, when you sign up to take that job, that comes with the territory. Yep. You have to understand that going into it. And if you can't officiate a game with a clean head and a neutral look, you shouldn't be officiating that game.
Yeah.
It's plain and simple.
Yeah. I mean, you and I have both been referees, so we know what it's like to take some abuse from parents, fans, players.
It's not fun. It's not
fun at all. And, repeat offenders, for me, that's something that the league needs to look at, not the referee. I agree with you. But at the same time, like, the way these rules are written now, because they're trying to eliminate all these things. They don't want people getting injured. They don't want their star players missing games.
Yeah, of course.
They want highlight dunks. They want threes. They want exciting things for fans to watch. So they write these rules, and the referee has to follow the rule. And I don't think that deserved to get an ejection. 5 years ago, it wouldn't have been an ejection. 10 years ago, it wouldn't have been an ejection. 20 years ago, it wouldn't have been a foul.
Yeah. Well, and that's the problem with flagrant fouls, right? It's that they have all this language written into what a flagrant foul is, and you're supposed to be able to determine it based on the letter of the law, right? Mm-hmm. But the problem with what's written into the letter of the law for a flagrant foul is the word intent.
Yep.
That's a really, really hard thing to determine for a human being in a live game situation like that.
And that's where reputation comes in.
Yeah, you're right.
Because that dictates intent.
Still, at the end of the day, though, I don't think there are many people that believed this was a flagrant 2 foul.
I think we both agree that was not the right call. However, the referees followed the rules, as they said. And the biggest thing out of this is this was Memphis's opportunity. This is the game they could have stolen. And not even stolen, because this was a home game. and they're, had the better record in the series. But this was a huge miss. Oh, absolutely. By Memphis.
Jaren Jackson Jr., by far and away the best game of the postseason for him so far. And they still end up losing. Klay Thompson misses 2 free throws.
Yeah.
With 4 seconds left.
90+%
6 seconds left.
free
whatever.
throw shooter. Yeah.
I mean, you just can't write that.
The Warriors have like the top 3 free throw shooters in the NBA.
Yeah.
In Jordan Poole, Klay Thompson, and Steph Curry. It's really incredible. And that's what helps them win games. Unfortunately, you missed them in this game, but they still won. They got away with a 1-point lead.
It goes both ways, right? Like that should have been Warriors basketball after that second missed free throw.
Yep.
Neither team has a challenge, so they go to a jump ball, and Memphis wins the jump. So it goes both ways.
It was an exciting game nonetheless, and we will see what happens on Tuesday for Game 2. Are you still rocking with Milwaukee and Golden State in these series?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Let's move on here to today's games. We have 2 exciting games today. The first one starts here in about 45 minutes, and Calvin, they finally listened to me. These games are at different times on different channel, on the same channel.
There isn't a third game today.
So I'm going to be able to watch both of these games, which I'm really excited. Both these games live.
Yeah.
First off, we have Philadelphia without Joel Embiid is heading to Miami to play the Heat, potentially without Jimmy Butler and a bunch of other injuries to that team. Let me just dive in here and see what the odds are on this. We have Miami favored by 7.5 in this game. What are your thoughts? Kyle Lowry's also out for Miami.
7.5 is a lot for how many people are on this injury report for Miami. I mean, like I said, I expect probably half these guys to play. Jimmy Butler, I'm really not sure about. That I think is going to be the big question mark. But we've seen already in the past from Miami, they are deep, they're complete, and they're ready for these guys to step up like Victor Oladipo.
Yep.
If all these guys are going to miss time. The bigger question to me is Philadelphia. I mean, Joel Embiid, highest usage percentage in the league of anybody this season. He is everything for what they do offensively and defensively. If he's not able to go, a lot more pressure is now on James Harden's shoulders, as we already know.
Traded Drummond. I think they got, DeAndre Jordan is the backup center
they do have DeAndre Jordan. I look at Bam Adebayo as this is your time to feast right now.
I think it's 18.5 points is the over-under for him tonight.
Yeah, I expect him to have a big game if Embiid is, we know Embiid is not going to play. So I expect Bam to have a big time game. And, it's going to come down to three-point shooting, I think. Miami, one of the best teams in the league all year long. Philadelphia, when they're able to hit from outside with guys like Maxey and Tobias Harris and Harden and all these guys, they're a much more difficult team. But I trust Miami to make big plays defensively. I don't trust, without Embiid to anchor that defense, guys like Harden to stop people on the perimeter until he shows it to me. So I think it comes down to three-point shooting and, how big is Philadelphia's bench going to be? They don't have a lot of offense coming off that bench right now. And Miami just comes in with hockey line substitution waves of people that can both score and defend. It's going to be a real uphill battle for Miami. I expect them to go back.
Philadelphia?
I'm sorry, for Philadelphia. Thank you. I expect the Sixers going back home down 0-2.
Wow. Yeah, I agree. I think, Miami's at home, which is always an advantage. I think coaching-wise, Miami has an advantage. System-wise, Miami has an advantage. Philadelphia has a lot of talent on that team, but as you mentioned, the usage rate for Joel Embiid is absolutely huge. He is the driving force on that team. I don't have the record in front of me right now, but I'd imagine their record this season without Joel Embiid is not good.
Keep in mind, they didn't have Harden for probably a few of those games. Ben Simmons wasn't playing also, so it's a little skewed. But
I think Harden and Maxey could combine for 60 points in this game, and they still lose this game.
Wow.
I think that the key for this game for Philadelphia is going to be Tobias Harris.
Yeah.
I think you need Harden and you need Maxey to do their thing, and Tobias Harris has to be the third guy to step up. If one of those three guys does not perform well tonight, they easily lose this game. Easily.
Yep, and Maxey, I think, is a really big key for me as well in this series. These guys found it easy to score a lot of times against the Hawks. I mean, we saw Maxey have 38 in game one. He looked unstoppable. It's not going to be that easy to score against Miami. So are they going to be able to make enough stops defensively without Embiid? And can they put up enough points? I think this series is a lot more one-sided than people might make it out to be.
Yeah, I agree. And, we talked about the things that Philadelphia is going to face this offseason as far as player personnel and questions like that. They have a ton of money just allocated to Tobias Harris, James Harden, and Embiid. What are they going to do to improve? I'm sure we'll be talking about that here in a week or two when they go fishing. So moving on to the second game of the day, we have Dallas heading to Phoenix to take on the Suns. The Suns are favored by 6 in this game. Both of these teams dealt with injuries in the first round, one to Devin Booker and one to Luka Doncic. Both teams survive and move on to round 2. This is going to be an interesting series, Calvin, but I want to hear your thoughts.
I think Dallas is in trouble. I really do. And the reason I say that is because of two people, DeAndre Ayton and JaVale McGee. We already heard Jason Kidd say it going into this series. This is not the same as playing Rudy Gobert and Hassan Whiteside because these guys can actually manufacture points and offense themselves. They don't have to rely on Chris Paul. I mean, McGee, not as much as Ayton, but DeAndre Ayton should absolutely dominate this series. And then you take into account that they've still got Chris Paul and Devin Booker out there.
Yeah.
I just don't – I'm sorry, Mike, but it's going to be awfully difficult for your Mavs.
Hey, the Mavs proved me wrong in the first round, so, they could do it again. But if both teams remain healthy, I'm taking Phoenix. I took Phoenix to win the title this year, so I'm sticking with that. But you mentioned, Ayton is going to have a huge advantage in the post. And then Chris Paul, who is going to stop Chris Paul in this game? And then, Devin Booker is back. He's healthy. He said he's ready to go.
Luka's going to have to step up and play some real defense in this series. And on the perimeter, he's just not that good right now, in my opinion, because he's going to be matched up on one of these guys. I mean, maybe for periods of time, they take him off Booker. They put him on somebody like Mikal Bridges instead. But, Mikal Bridges is a much improved offensive player also.
Yep.
If that's the case, whoever Doncic is guarding, that's who I'm going at if I'm Phoenix, without, first trying to get Ayton the ball inside on a good post-up. If you're Dallas, you're going to keep doing what you've been doing all year long, and that's spread the court wide open. The question is, how many threes are they going to be able to knock down? They're going to have to hit a ton of them in this series.
Yeah, and, Doncic, you know what you're going to get out of him. You need the other guys to step up, and you honestly just need to hope that Phoenix is out of rhythm here, maybe be physical with them. But if you just were to measure the talent on these teams, Phoenix is way higher to me on that list. And the fact that they made it to the finals last year, they probably still have that taste in their mouth of losing to the Bucks. Dallas is nowhere near the caliber of the Milwaukee Bucks. So I see Phoenix winning this series in 5 games.
Yeah, I would probably have to agree with that. Expect to see Dallas try to mix things up and play some zone in this series as well, because I think that's the only way they're really going to be able to match or play against the size inside from Phoenix.
So are we both taking home teams today, huh?
Yeah. I like Philadelphia to cover the spread today.
Okay.
I want to throw that out there, but I think Miami is going to win. And I'd take Phoenix to the bank.
Also, I did want to give another shout-out to Dallas. I know I talked about it last week, but first playoff series win in 11 years since they won the title. That's amazing.
And Jason Kidd was a player on that team, and now he's a coach.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild.
That is pretty crazy. That is pretty crazy. And shout-out to all my Kings fans out there, too. We haven't made the playoffs for so long. Look at a team like Dallas that we think is such an amazing team. They haven't won a playoff series now, or it took them 11 years to do it. So it's not
they
as
were
easy.
At least in the playoffs. Though,
yeah, but I'm just saying it's not as easy as many people think. Oh, we just build, we make the playoffs, then it's tougher than it looks. It really is. All right, Calvin, let's open up the show here to Q&A. I know Flame Flurry 11 is excited, and I have a feeling I already know what his first question is, Calvin. So I'm going to pose it to you. Victor Oladipo has been mentioned this week to have interest in be eyeing the Sacramento Kings in the offseason. We know he played with Sabonis in Indiana.
Yeah.
Let's hear your thoughts.
I think it's a great move if you're Sacramento. I think it's a great move for a lot of teams. I mean, I talked about Atlanta when they got eliminated being a team that might want to look at Victor Oladipo. This is a guy that you're probably going to be able to get for a really good deal. I mean, it might even be a minimum deal just because of his injury past, and he's still, working his way back to the league. But if you're the Sacramento Kings, how could you not want to take a flyer on this guy? Sure, injury past might have you a little bit worried, but I think there's huge upside here. I mean, first of all, we talk so much on our other channel, Royal Rebounds, about how the Kings need to become better defensively. This guy, when he's healthy, is a great two-way player and a really good on-ball defender. Mm-hmm. So that takes care of that first and foremost. He also has shown over the years that he's got a great offensive game as well and can really score. So you're potentially getting a major starting shooting guard for a veteran's minimum deal here, which would be a huge, huge home run.
I think it'd probably cost more than a veteran's minimum to get him, but yes, I agree.
We'll see. There was a report from an anonymous GM that said it's probably nobody is really willing to spend a lot of money on this guy right now.
Okay.
So I think you might be able to get him for a lot cheaper than you think.
Okay. And he turns 30 years old 2 days from now on May the 4th.
Be with you.
All right, any other questions before we end the show here? We appreciate you all for watching. Once again, we do apologize. We weren't available on Friday, but we will be back again tomorrow, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll be here Monday through Friday. We're also going to be live on Royal Rebounds again on Thursday, talking about the Kings narrowing down their coaching search surrounding a guy like Mark Jackson. We'll talk a little bit more about the Victor Oladipo news and just any other Kings news. Anything else you want to mention, Calvin, in today's show? Anything else that's going around in the NBA that you find exciting? Or
no, I mean, it's all about playoff basketball for me right now. So just glad to be back doing the show, and we got some fun games to watch today.
Yeah, we have some exciting basketball going on here, which is, I'm just so happy. This is the whole reason they play the whole season long, right? Like, as a Kings fan, I'm disappointed the Kings are not in the playoffs, but it doesn't mean I'm not watching. Like, there's a lot of good basketball players, a lot of good teams, and this is the best time of year for basketball. It really is. It really is. All right, guys, we're going to shut down the bar here. Make sure you guys close out your tabs. Thank you for watching. We'll see you all tomorrow. And in the meantime, don't forget to tip your bartender.